This is the CPO series where world-class chief product officers share their firsthand experiences in building products, building companies, and perfecting their craft. So we are going to get started soon since we have a very exciting session with our guest speaker, Malaika, today. So while I am about to go over our quick housekeeping notes, say hello to us in the chat, let us know where you're joining from. So as a reminder today, the live session will be recorded and available on demand. This is going to be about a half-hour session. If you have questions that come up, please feel free to submit them. There's a Q&A panel, or you can submit them in the chat as we go. And then I do want to give a quick thank you to Women in Product for partnering with us for this event. If you do want to learn more about advancing your career, please check out womanpm.org. And then if you want to stay tuned till the end, we have an exciting program as part of Women in Product. They have an Executive Edge program. It aligns greatly if you're here today and interested in the path to C-suite. So stay tuned for that. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and kick this off. So the CPO series is hosted by DragonBoat, and in case you didn't know, DragonBoat enables product leaders to accelerate outcomes with a suite of products for road mapping, portfolio management, and strategic planning. So if you're curious, check out dragonboat.io/CPO to learn more. And now I'm very excited to introduce officially our guest, Malaika Paquiot. So Malaika is a seasoned product executive and former CPO of Avalanche Insights with over 20 years of experience in the technology industry. So she's got a diverse background in software engineering, engineering management, and product leadership. And she's led high-functioning engineering, design, and data science teams in building fintech, web, mobile voice, IoT, and even generative AI-powered analytics. These have been for Fortune 100s, Series Bs, As, and seed stage startups. So Malaika is now providing strategic guidance as a product management consultant to select early and growth stage tech startups. So welcome, and thank you for being here with us today, Malaika.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. The chat is blowing up, and it's so exciting to see so many people from all over the world joining today.
Awesome. So that brings us to our topic for today, which is all about the journey to CPO and what makes a good product leader great. So I am now going to pass the mic to Malaika to share all about her journey.
All right, thank you. Let me get my screen shared. All right, let me know if you can see my slide. So that's the slide that you left off on. So yeah, super excited to be talking to everyone today. Thank you so much for taking time out to hear what I have to say on this topic. Let's jump right in. I have a lot to share, and we don't have a lot of time. But first, I'm going to start with a disclaimer. So all product people are familiar with the disclaimer slide that you have to show at the beginning of a roadmap presentation. Just want to let everybody know this is my disclaimer. These are my opinions. They are not the opinions of any of my employers, past or present, nor are they the aggregated opinions from a large language model. They're all my opinions. So with that, let's move on. Here's the agenda. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about myself, give you some background. Obviously, Christina did a great job just now. Then we'll get some definitions out of the way, right? If we want to talk about how to get from being a good product leader to being a great product leader, we have to define those terms, right? So we'll do that. And then we will lay out a roadmap, or lay out how you can roadmap your path to great product leadership. And then we'll wrap up, we'll take questions, I'll share at least one resource with you, and yeah, we'll wrap up there. So I'm Malaika right now. As Christina said, I am a product executive consultant to early and growth stage startups. And speaking of women in product, I am a women in product Executive Edge Council member. So this is the council that we are creating to fast track women in product to the C-suite. So if you're VP level, director level, you're trying to get to the C-suite, please, please, please apply. Look at my LinkedIn. You'll see some posts that I've put on it. We definitely want to have a healthy cohort of women we can help get to that C-suite level. Right before this, as she said, I led a team of not only product managers, designers, data scientists, and engineers. I have over 20 years of experience, and that was split between being an engineer or in engineering management. So I started off as an engineer, and products leadership. So my 20 years or over 20 years now is split, I would say, around half and half between engineering and product. I've won an award. I have judged a startup weekend, and I keep chickens. So if anyone wants to talk about chickens, let me know. All right, so let's get into good versus great. Let's get into some definitions. I like to have interactive presentations. So we're gonna do a quick exercise. I'm going to ask you to think about the last great product leader you worked with or for. So just take a couple of seconds, think about, conjure in your mind the image of that person, and drop some adjectives in the chat that you would use to describe that person. So what are the kinds of things that they did that made you feel that they were a great product leader? So that's sort of step one. Think of the things that they did, right? And then step two is, I want you to think about and put in the chat how they made you feel. So what did they do? And how did they make you feel? Great product leader. We'll take a little bit of time there. And again, I have to shout out the people at Dragon Boat. Really appreciate the opportunity. And it's really great to have an arsenal of tools to help you as a product leader, Dragon Boat being one of them. It's always helpful to be able to clearly prioritize what it is you're trying to do, tie that to business outcomes, and having a tool like Dragon Boat definitely helps with that. And we'll talk about some tools today as well. All right, what do we have in the chat? Okay. We have bold, focused, enthusiastic, insightful, big picture thinker. I love that. Empathetic, cared about team and end user, challenged, trusted, encouraged, great communicator, brings team together, great insights, made me feel valued, made me feel like I could trust them to help me grow. I always came back motivated, energized, made me feel empowered. I love this because seriously, you guys could have done my presentation. I love how many responses have little to do with the day-to-day of what that leadership, what that great product leader was doing, and more about those soft skills, how they showed up at work, confidence and ability to push back on senior leadership on requests unrelated to roadmap. Oh goodness, we've all been there. We've all been there with things swooping in from the side to land on your roadmap, or the attempt to do that. So that ability to shield the folks on their team so that they can do the work that they need to do. Love it, love it. Okay, all right. So keep these in mind. Keep these adjectives in mind. Keep this feeling in mind as we now talk about your good product leaders. All right. So let's talk about the product skills that you're supposed to have if you're a good product person, not necessarily a leader. I'm going to break these down into just a product person, then we're going to layer on leadership, and then we're going to layer on greatness. So product skills, you need to know your customer in and out. What is it that makes them feel accomplished? What are their pain points? We all know these things. You need to know your product in and out. You need to know where the bodies are buried. You need to know how it works, when it works well, when it's going to shine, who it works well for, again, sort of that target customer. Who's the buyer of your product? Who's the user of your product? Are those the same people? Again, just in and out. You need to know your team. So as a product person, that core team that you're working with, that's likely going to be engineers, maybe some other product managers or product people, maybe you have an analyst, maybe you have a product ops person. You're working with testers, possibly. You're working with maybe designers, or one designer or multiple designers. And then, so that's probably your core team. If you have a machine learning product, meaning the core of your product is machine learning, so not using machine learning to dig into customer data, for instance, to figure out how to position your product, or to do like a market basket analysis to see what products people are purchasing together. But when the core of your product is a machine learning product, then you might have a data scientist also on your core team, right? So you're going to know that team in and out. You're going to know how to work with them. You're going to know how to give them what it is they need. As a product person, you're probably going to be equal parts strategic and tactical. So you're going to have to be thinking about how to have shovel-ready work for your engineers, and the experiments that your data scientists will be needing to run, and what a good outcome of those experiments are, so that you can then pass that on to a machine learning engineer or software engineers to bring to life. You need to be doing that. And also you need to be looking ahead, right? So that strategic part, what is the roadmap going to need to look like for the next 6, 12, possibly 18 months? You're going to have to manage stakeholders. I think, product managers are unique in this area, in that we sit at the nexus of a lot of people in the organization, right? Product managers have to not only interact with and manage and take into consideration the perspectives of that core team that I just mentioned, but also possibly content writers or UX writers, marketing, legal, sales. My goodness, how can I forget sales, right? All of these people, all of these functions in the organization, you have to consider. Also your boss, and depending on the size of your company, that might be other executives, it might be someone at the C level. And then finally, you need to be committed to continuous improvement, always improving your product, always improving the process of delivering software, right? So good product managers do that. Now let's layer on leadership, okay? Not only are you, in some ways, you're doing a lot of the things that you were doing as a product manager, but at a higher level, right? So you have to know your category. So it's not just a product. There might be a portfolio of products that you have. You need to be thinking about the technological changes that might be influencing your category, the market changes. If you're in a heavily regulated category, then you have to be thinking about the regulations that might be impacting what it is you're trying to deliver. You are going to be being a lot more strategic than you are tactical. So before it might be 50-50, now you're looking at like an 80-20, just like very strategic. And then that broader influence, a lot of times people talk about broader influence. It'll depend on the size of the company and where you are in the company as a leader. But that broader influence is not only within the organization, so maybe all the way up to the executive level, you're trying to influence. You also might be influencing the board of directors of the company, right? So that broader influence. You might be influencing, especially if this is like an enterprise company or you have enterprise customers, then you're looking to influence the market. You're looking to influence research organizations like Gartner and Forrester, right? And that sort of broader influence leads directly to one of the main differentiators between just product person and that product leader is how much time you're going to spend influencing people to join your team. You're going to be thinking about what how to organize your team so that you can deliver on the business outcomes, so that you can ensure that people feel the way that they're supposed to feel. And you're going to be looking to grow your team. So that's, you might be having to hire a director, or you might have to be hiring individual contributors on your team. But that's going to take up a lot of your time and mental energy. How are you growing the team? And how are you influencing beyond the walls of your department, possibly of your company, to the broader market? So that's product and leader. And now let's talk about what makes a great product leader. So we're doing these things, we've layered on the leadership. Now we get to greatness. All of the adjectives that you put in the chat about how a great person made you feel, that is what makes a great product leader. It's the degree to which you can do these things and still make people feel empowered. So it requires a great deal of introspection. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Because you're going to have this commitment to continuous improvement, which means you're going to be, experimenting, you're going to be trying different things, you're going to be cultivating a culture that is okay with that. You're going to be committed to improving as a subject matter expert, an SME, but you're also going to commit to improving as an empathetic and empowering leader. And you're going to be, as much as possible, creating a high trust culture. So I'm going to pause here for a second and talk about a time when I did not do that. So a lot of times greatness comes when you have an opportunity to demonstrate that. And that opportunity can come when things are, when the going gets tough. So give an example. I was at a company, we were going through a time when we were fundraising, and I was under a lot of stress because investors were asking to see particular things. I was kind of in charge of doing the demos for that. And I was leaning on people on my team to set things up so that I could demo properly. And things were not set up the way I wanted them to be set up. And I expressed that in not the best way, in a Slack channel directed to one person, but it was a group Slack channel. And fortunately, I had developed a high enough trust culture that the person that I was directing that to could pull me aside, or in our next one-on-one, this was a direct report now, tell me that, they really didn't feel that I had shown up in the best way in that situation. And I knew better. I knew that as a leader, if you're going to give constructive feedback, you need to do that in private. And when you're praising people, you need to do that in public. But also, I hadn't thought about how the stress of the situation of having to have everything together and ready was impacting how I was showing up. And so we were able to have a conversation. I was able to apologize, circle back because I had done that in public. So I needed to let everybody know that we had had a conversation and that I did not show up in the best way, and commit to doing better. I would say greatness, again, comes when you have the opportunity to demonstrate that. So you need to be able to practice, and sometimes you won't get it right, but you have to be able to recognize when that is happening and make it right, and make a commitment to being better at that. A lot of the very best product leaders for me made me feel empowered and made me feel like if I did make a mistake, that I could come back from it. And the ones that I didn't feel were great product leaders did kind of the opposite. And so what I would say to folks here is, you're going to do all the things that you're supposed to do, and that's fine. But in order to be great at it, you need to layer on that introspection and that commitment to continuously improve and make people feel good while you are doing the things that you need to do, as much as you can, right? You still have to have honest conversations if you need to give feedback, but there's always a best way to do that. It has a lot to do with establishing rapport with people so that they can feel good about giving you feedback when they need to. And it comes down to really taking into consideration the feedback that you're getting and trying to continuously improve. The rest of this conversation is going to be focused on how you get those opportunities to demonstrate greatness, because I'm going to be very real with you. We don't all get equal opportunity to demonstrate greatness. You can be great all day long. If you don't have the opportunity to demonstrate that, if no one can see that you can do that, then it's kind of all for naught. And you actually don't get great without practice. So let's talk about how you navigate. I think someone said, how you navigate the chasm between good and great. Let's talk about how you do that. All right, so 3 steps. The first one is a self-assessment. So you kind of did that in the exercise. You said, okay, what looks like great to me? What you need to do is you need to sit down with that and talk about what are the things that you are not doing that are preventing you from being great. What do you need to be doing in order to be great? And how do you need to be making people feel in order to be great? So you wrote down those adjectives. You need to sit and think about whether or not that's what you are doing. So you've kind of sort of done that, half done that. That's the first step. The next step is to identify the needs. And the final step is to address those needs. Let's talk about identifying those needs. So again, getting from good to great. You've done the self-assessment. You've identified, okay, what's stopping me from getting there? And this is going to be focused on those sort of tangible things, right? I love using the opportunity solution tree. Shout out to Teresa Torres. This is something that you use as a product manager. Possibly if you don't, I highly recommend it. In coming up with solutions, you start off with business outcome, and then you think about why it is you're not achieving the business outcome, and then you talk about the solutions to get there. Or you might be thinking about a customer problem, and why are they not solving the customer problem, and you think about possible solutions. We're going to turn that on you right now. You want to become a great product leader. There might be several reasons you are not that right now. One might be you don't have the skills or experience. One might be you have the skills and experience, but nobody knows. And finally, you might have the skills and experience, but no one believes in you. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and talk about what to do in each of those situations. How do we address those needs? So the first one, I don't have the skills or experience. You're going to brainstorm some solutions, right? Maybe you need to take some courses. There are plenty of courses on LinkedIn. Dragon Boat has a lot of great resources on their website that can help you as well. You might do a startup on the side. That can help you get the skills and experience that you need. A lot of people do a little side project. It's a great way to hone those skills that you might not get where you are in your current organization. You might shadow someone. So look at a great product leader and shadow them. You can ask them to do that. And a temporary assignment might be something that you can do in your organization. If you are going to do this, please work it out with your manager so that this is not very impactful. So you want to make sure you have figured out who your backup is going to be and all of that. And then also recognize that some things just take time. Skills and experience, that takes time. For any of those things, think about, again, I like to use product management tools. Think about the impact versus effort for you. So if you're trying to do any of those things, We are all human. Some of us are caregivers. Some of us have families. Some of us have other commitments. Think about what it is you can realistically do for each of those and prioritize that. What if you have the skills and experience, but no one knows? You're going to make your own personal go-to-market plan. You're going to think about who in my organization needs to know that I'm a great product leader. Who can give me those opportunities to demonstrate that? How do you get their information? Who knows them, right? So that you can reach out to them. And then you're going to build a team to execute on the go-to-market plan. So it can't just be you. You will need supporters who can help you. Those supporters may look like a mentor, someone you can just bounce ideas off of. They're also helpful in your assessment. And then you'll need sponsors. Sponsors are people who actually advocate for you to get into a particular position. So while mentors give a lot of advice, sponsors are really going to actually help you get that position. I had a wonderful sponsor when I was at IBM that got me into my first position as a product manager. You're going to need someone like that, especially if you're in a large organization. Finally, you might have the skills and experience, but no one believes in you, which is a very it's awkward and it's also sad when that happens, but I want to be really real with you. It happens sometimes. It's happened to me. I've had a manager who told me they really just didn't see it for me. I had a mentor who told me that he had a manager who was similar, and he gave me some advice. If you have a manager who does not see the potential in you and does not want to help you to get to where you need to go, then you do need to find a new manager. It's exceptionally hard to get ahead, to demonstrate that you're a good product leader or get the opportunities to become a great product leader if you don't have a direct manager who is in support of that. And so you have to be real. And just like you have a go, no go check off when you're launching a new product, you have to really think about whether or not it makes sense for you to launch into that part of your career where you are. If it is indeed the case that you need to change managers and you can't do that within your organization, you need to think about moving on, build your ideal company profile. And obviously it's best to do that when you have a job. Think about the kind of company that you would want to work for, and then build a team to help you get there. So that's your cheerleaders who are going to cheer you on. And it is it might be a headhunter, it might be a recruiter, and your network. Those are the people who are going to help you land your next position. All right. So to wrap up, getting from good to great, you're going to assess whether or not you are a great product leader right now. You're going to identify the needs. What is it that you need to do in order to become a great product leader? And then you're going to address those needs. I highly recommend this book by Marty Kagan and Chris Jones called Empowered. It's all about creating empowered teams. That was a word that I saw in the chat. Really suggest that. It's something that I look at a lot, and I'm rooting for you. I know we are right at time. Can we take a couple of questions, Christina?
Yes, we can. Can you see my...
I'll stop sharing. Should I stop sharing?
Yes, this is a perfect segue to our Q&A. Sorry, trying to get my screens reoriented really quick. But yes, this was a 30-minute session, but if you've got a couple more minutes to hang out, we have a lot of really great questions that we got from LinkedIn, and I see some questions coming in here. So,
I'm going to try and answer as many questions as I can. Let's go.
All righty. So real quick before we hop to Q&A, I'm going to wrap up by concluding, of course, here, like we're hearing from Malaika today, through Dragonboat partnering with thousands of product leaders, we've learned they really do need the right tooling for their teams in order to achieve those goals. So if you want to check out how Dragonboat can help your product teams, book a free consultative demo at dragonboat.io/CPO. And then some more resources I'd love to share with you. If you want to partner and work with Malaika as your product executive consultant, you can connect and continue the conversation with her through LinkedIn. And if you're seeking more networking, mentorship, and advice, this is what Malaika was talking about. She is actually part of Women in Products Executive Edge 1-year program. She is on the council. So if you want access to her, if you want more mentors, I would highly recommend you to check this out. The last day to apply is actually tomorrow on August 25th. So be sure to check that out in time. Then you can also check out dragonboat.io for more resources. And if you want to take a free certification for responsive product portfolio management, you can check that out at responsiveppm.org. And now we will get through the rapid fire here of some Q&As. So Malaika, if you want, I can start off with some questions that we had from LinkedIn.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, so the first one here is, what are the crucial first steps in the first 90 days as a CPO, thinking it's a different approach at this level?
Yeah. So first 90 days, I would say you want to start by just having a conversation with as many people as you can that you will be working with. So you want to get to know the team, and you'll, similar to what I said before, when you're thinking about how to become great, you want to do an assessment. And the best way to do an assessment is to talk to the people who are going to be impacted by whatever it is you're trying to do. So you want to talk to your team. You also want to ensure that you're hitting up the stakeholders. That's going to let you know, like, where the bodies are buried and what the skeletons are. Very macabre. I need to figure out another saying, but you want to figure out, what's actually going on. What are the most pressing needs? That's what I've done. And then you want to collaborate with those people that you've heard from on a plan. Like, what is it that you're going to do? How are you going to make their lives better? And then you want to commit to doing that. So you'll want to do that assessment, collaborate with them to come up, with a plan of action. And then you'll just want to constantly communicate what it is you're planning on doing. I did that at my last job, had a conversation with everyone and sort of figured out, okay, this is what needs to be done. I'm going to communicate that and make a plan to enact that. And a lot of times there are organizational issues that need to be addressed. Next.
Awesome. So on the flip side of that, how do you know you're not doing it right without feeding imposter syndrome?
Yeah, so that was the part that I skipped over. So how do you know that you're not doing it right? Yes, imposter syndrome is tricky because sometimes it is imposter syndrome. Sometimes it is the fact that you actually don't know what it is you are supposed to know. And that's where your mentors come into play. That's where your peers come into play. You'll need a trusted set of people that you can get honest feedback from. I also try and get feedback, especially if you have direct reports, get feedback from them. What could I be doing better? And it doesn't have to be, very formal. A lot of my one-on-ones ended with, how can I be helping you do your job better? So you'll want to get honest feedback from people who are trusted to determine whether or not it is just imposter syndrome, or you might not be doing right. And you'll also see it in the results of, if your team isn't delivering, if morale is low, you'll kind of get that sense.
Okay, so moving right along, we've got a lot of great questions coming in. We might only have time for a couple more.
All right, let's do 2 more, and then what I will do is go back to the post about this webinar on the Dragon Boat page, and I will write answers to the questions that I don't get to. I'll write it in the comments.
I love that. We are keeping track of all the questions. So that's a great, fantastic idea. So let's take two more questions. So Anit wants to know, what are the key differences of being a CPO for an early stage startup versus at an established corporation?
Oh gosh. Okay, that is probably its own talk. I might save that one for later, but just like super quickly, at a small organization, you might have more, how to put this, more departments reporting to you, right? So Avalanche was a fairly small organization. And so I had data scientists and engineers and product people and designers. At a large organization, you probably won't have that. You'll probably just have a very large product organization reporting up to you. There might be multiple CPOs depending on how it's set up. So I would say the departments that are reporting to you might differ, and the levels of people reporting to you might differ, right? If you're at a large organization versus a small organization. At a large organization, you will probably have more, I don't want to say hoops to jump through, but you'll have more people that you have to get sign off and buy-in from to move a thing forward. You might have to be working with a CTO, for instance, or a VP of engineering to move things forward versus being able to have that under your purview and move things forward like that. So there are definitely like organizational things that come into play, and it's probably worth another talk, or maybe I'll write an article about it, but there are definitely major differences.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack with that one. So we would love to hear your perspective on that one a little more. Okay, we are going to take one more question. So this is similar to what you were talking about earlier, Malaika, but how can I foster strong relationships with those stakeholders outside of the product team? So those execs, customers, partners, etc.
Yeah. So this is where that small company versus large company comes into play too. Sometimes it can be hard to have access to those folks if you're at a larger company. But regardless, depending on the culture of your company, one thing that you might try to do is have for a lot of us are working remotely. So if it's remote, if you're working remotely, try and set up some, every bi-monthly or a couple of times a year, informal conversations. So 30 minutes to not necessarily talk about work. Or if in person, you might try and set up something like that. So you want to establish some rapport. You want to make sure that you are understanding what their pain points are, just like customers, and you want to see what you can do to make their life easier, right? Because you want them to think of you and have good feelings, just like you thought about that great product leader and you had good feelings and you had good adjectives. You want to be associated with making their life easier, not with making their life harder. So those are some of the things that you can do. And I'm assuming this is because you don't have like direct access to them all the time. If these are folks that you're working with as a matter of course, then you'll have the opportunity to do that when you are getting their perspective on the roadmap, for instance. Again, I could talk a lot more about that. Okay, I'm gonna have to drop.
Yeah, no, this was fantastic, Malaika. We could talk probably for hours here, but how about this? We'll compile the questions and we'll start a thread somewhere and share with y'all. And then Malaika can share more of her insights and learnings there. But do want to thank you so much again, Malaika, for joining today.
Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I respond to everybody. Maybe not always in the timeliest manner, but I do respond. If you have other questions, hit me up and I'm happy to help.
Love this. All righty. Take care, everybody, and see you next time.
All right. Take care. Thanks for joining.